Deep shot. He's got a touchdown.
And Mahomes at bay.
The Tampa Bay Bucs, Super Bowl 55.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Bucs Banter podcast. As always, I am your host, Colin Hallboom. Happy to be here talking Buccaneers and NFL football, especially on a Victory Monday, a special Victory Monday because, of course, the Buccaneers are advancing, not without their wounds, but they are advancing beyond the Super Wildcard Weekend, as they call it. And they're going to be heading to the Divisional round where, of course, they will play at home, I might add, the winner of tonight's Monday night, first in maybe ever in a long time, Monday night football playoff game between the Los Angeles Rams and the Arizona Cardinals. Scott, Bo, my two co-hosts, how are you two doing? What's going on? What'd you think? What's good?
Feeling good, feeling great, man. Congratulations. Happy Bucs fans all around. Another Victory Monday, and this one, it's a little bit special, right? This is probably the first home playoff game, like true home playoff game that's not a Super Bowl game, where the crowd's a little bit different, obviously, for basically everyone on the roster, right?
Yeah, with this regime, man, it is. Like last year, unfortunately, Bucs fans weren't able to really be a part of the playoff run, so it's nice to see Raymond James packed yesterday. That was awesome.
Yeah. Oh, good start there. Hello, guys. Happy Monday. Great dub for the Bucs. I think it's always funny whenever you see like playoff win totals and stuff in the NFL, and it's like, oh yeah, they've won it just because you think there's been so many playoff games and the league's been around for so long. It's like, oh yeah, this team has 6 home playoff wins all time or something like that. It's like, wow, fan bases can really remember each of these games. It's not like, the Celtics or the Lakers or the Habs in hockey where, you just have so many playoff series and so many games, right? Like each one of the wins really matters and it really counts. And like, so it's a big deal to win one. So yeah, even against, an outclassed Eagles team, that's a home playoff game that the Bucs won. So awesome.
Yeah, totally. And I know the Eagles are nothing to write home about. I thought the line was too big when it was 8.5 because, everyone was talking about the weather leading up to the game, this like thunderstorm coming through Tampa. It looked beautiful. It looked absolutely beautiful. I got to give a shout out to Scott Reynolds and probably everyone who's located in the Bay Area, the Tampa Bay area, Florida. Who knows that you can't really trust a forecast beyond what you see out your window. So that worked out well. I mean, I think it was a lot windier than you could tell on TV. I'd love to hear from anyone who was maybe in attendance at Raymond James if they're in the comments, which is a good time to remind everyone to check us out on YouTube, Bucs Banter YouTube channel. And we'd love to hear from you guys tonight to know what you want to talk about. The audience through Bucs Report and Bucs Banter are always so great to engage with. So we hope we get to hear from you guys throughout this show.
Yeah, there's a lot to get into. Sorry, Carl. I just want to talk about that late line movement because obviously a ton of money came in. It moved almost 1.5 Sunday morning, right? I think it was still 8.5 on Saturday night, if I remember correctly, before going to bed. And that's a ton of money against the Bucs to move that all the way down to just a touchdown. I don't know. I didn't bet it or anything. But I was thinking. Really think people are overthinking this one a little bit. Maybe had too much time to look into reasons to bet against the Bucs. I don't know. Obviously, easy for me to say after Tampa absolutely handled them and the spread was never really in doubt or anything. But I was surprised that much money came in on the Eagles. But people were like, if you're on Twitter, like people were really worried about the weather. Like like if without knowing, if you were just looking on Twitter and everything, you would have thought it was going to be like a game played in the mud, like a total slop fest plus wind where no one was going to score. So I don't know. I found that really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think my best guess in terms of that late line movement was probably more a result of like the Fournette news that trickled out. Fournette being out, I think like that's the only thing I can attribute it to.
But that's sorry. And like, here I am, certainly not a professional gambler or anything, but that's like, it just doesn't matter I'm sorry. Like, it just doesn't matter. A running back, like, unless it's Derrick Henry or Jonathan Taylor, you're just not moving the line that much. I'm not saying that that's not what the reasoning behind the people who bet the Eagles was. But like, you even texted me like Fournette is out, not great. I don't know why I didn't say this, but like, it didn't matter. That to me, that just means Brady gets to throw more, right? There's less of a reason to even try. Like, I don't know. I just find that interesting.
Yeah, like I completely understand what you're saying in general, but I think the fact that Ronald Jones already being out made it a little bit more unique because you're literally depending on Giovanni Bernard, who was just coming off IR, didn't know what they're going to get from him, and a guy who is so unproven in his second year in the league in Keyshawn Vaughn.
That's fair.
You know, and with the receiving core so depleted, I think Leonard Fournette coming back was just such a going to be such an important part of their game plan. But regardless, you're right. Your philosophy was right because Keyshawn Vaughn did a damn fine job, and so did Gio Bernard. They were both really solid in his absence. In terms of of course, you know, everyone knows Bucs finished. They won 31-15, but they absolutely I thought we were going to get a Bills New England wild card matchup at first. It seemed like because the Bucs defense looked fantastic, but I want to talk about the offense first. You know,
it was kind of like the opposite of what we saw in the regular season, right? Like they came out and just punched first. Like they were unbelievably good at the start.
Totally. And it's funny, Bo, because I tweeted at you and obviously I did end up speaking too soon.
Yeah. We should go back and delete those.
No, that's okay. Because it did. I said I think I prefaced it by saying hopefully I'm not speaking too soon because it looked like they were about to really step on their throat, but they did what they did and let up a little bit. But in terms of the good things, I mean, Brady was doing what he does, and he was dropping dimes to a wide variety of receivers and tight ends all over the field, all levels. Lots of dink and dunk early on, but I love that, right? That's one of those things we've talked about a lot with Tom Brady coming into Tampa. Huge difference from what Buccaneers fans could expect from Jameis Winston and the previous group in that, well, really it's Tom Brady, difference from any other quarterback, but just his ability to take what the defense gives him and not feel any sort of pressure to stretch the ball down the field when he doesn't have to. That first drive was fantastic. Love how Leftwich and Brady, NBA, whoever was involved in that opening drive script, mixed up the run and the pass. I thought it was lovely. Everything was yeah, go.
Sorry, I just couldn't agree more. Just like without having to push the ball down the field, because like you can tell Philly was aware of it, didn't want to get beat that way, and it was just dump offs, little outs, you know, some successful runs, obviously, and without a big play, I'm pretty sure, at all on that first drive, they just strutted down the field and into the end zone. Right, that's impressive, and honestly, that's when I'm like, oh. Okay, well, if they're going to move that easily without connecting deep with Evans or like busting a run, like what is Philly going to do during this whole game? Because you know Brady's going to get the ball out quick, right? Like that's just what's going to happen. I thought that was about as bad a sign for Philly as possible, that opening drive.
For sure. Mike Cooper says, "Welcome to Florida, raining 6 miles away." Referring to our discussion about the weather earlier. Richard Rayborn wants to know how much the line movement, how much did it actually move? I know it opened at 8.5. What did you see?
Yeah, 1.5. Yeah, 7. It was 7 at kick.
Yeah.
So 1.5 points. Pretty big shift there.
Tony Brasio on YouTube says, "Let's go Cardinals." Yeah, we'll get into that. Obviously, we're going to tee up that game that's going down tonight, the last of the wild card playoff games. Big implications for Tampa, of course. And it's like similar to Tony, I'll be cheering hard for Arizona Cardinals upset because I think that's a much better matchup for the Buccaneers. I think most teams would feel that way. I need to, you know, while we're talking about the offense, I mean, I'm just going to get right to it. Both Tristan Wirfs and Ryan Jensen appeared to be hurt pretty badly at different points of the first half of this game, as everyone saw. Wirfs was rolled up on, and, you know, we've since learned it was an ankle. Really frustrated I was to see him back in the game. I think they were up 17-0 at that point. I had made that opinion very clear in the Twitter sphere, and you know, I was just frustrated because it just did not seem necessary to get Wirfs back in there. You can say, oh, you know, he probably really talked them into it and this and that. No, man, like he was in a lot of pain. It was obvious. There's just no need. You never know. Him coming back in for that rep where he put all his weight on it, maybe that ends up turning this from a
Making something pop.
from a 1 week injury to a 4 week injury. I don't know. Like, I'm not a doctor, but God, like, why risk it? You know?
I got it. Yeah, you know what? I was with you, and the more I thought about it, though, I was almost thinking like, okay, he went back out there. He had to have seen that he was out for a while. He missed multiple plays, if not multiple drives, I think. And the doctors had to have taken a look at it fairly quickly and been like, okay, you can't do any more damage to this or something. Hopefully that's what they were saying, or that there's a low probability of that. And I think it speaks to Tristan Wirfs being that Iron Man guy who hasn't missed a snap prior to this ever. Him being able to come back into the game says much more about like, okay, I'm going to be able to play for the rest of the playoffs. And like next week, I'm going to play like regardless of what's going on. Like it's almost the same situation you had like when we found out that Brady had that MCL issue in his knee. And it was just like, yeah, it's the playoffs. I can gut it out as long as I'm not going to do any more damage to it. The pain is no issue. So I think that's a thing that it just comes up this time of year for football players. And it's just like, if it's just pain, you can play through it. If it's going to be some sort of damage, then they'll hold you out.
Totally. And I mean, it is hard to diagnose that in game, I guess. But regardless, I just felt like, and you're right. I like that he wanted to be back out there. He's so important for this team.
Oh my God, yeah.
And the injuries that they've gone through, it just feels like, you know, like they're not willing to risk it with Fournette, as they shouldn't with a hamstring. Like, I'm glad they're keeping him out till he's ready to go.
Yeah.
But anyway, like my eyes did light up when I saw Wirfs come back, because at least it told me it wasn't super serious, which is ultimately what you're getting at, Bo. So yeah, I agree. I was very excited in that sense. I had this rush, and then I was kind of like, well, wait, let's slow our roll.
It looked bad, and it looked bad when he left the second time too. It was just like, geez, is he mortal? I think I texted you right after that. I think Kerrigan either got a sack or almost got a sack on him, and I was just like, that film should be burned immediately, because that's not Tristan Wirfs.
Also, the linemen are just so huge. It looks just catastrophic when they get hurt, right? Like when they crumple and fall to the ground, it's so, it's gross. I was having like, you know, I want the Bucs to do well and everything. I want the podcast to continue with wins and and get to preview the Super Bowl. But when Wirfs went down, I was like, no way. Like another one, and him of all people, like, it's not like you have the most mobile quarterback back there. You need your offensive line to play well. You have this young stud, and then he gets hurt as well. So, yeah, I'm totally with both of you guys. Like, I thought it was a good sign, obviously, that he could go back in, and then you're happy just that it wasn't catastrophic, just at the fact that he could go back in. But it's like, maybe let's just see how he is, like 100% before we put him back in. But you know, that's tough to do. You don't want to leave anything to chance in the playoffs, I guess. So,
who was your boy that came in there, Colin, to spell him for that few drives? He was horrible.
Not my boy. Josh Wells, our swing tackle, is not my boy at all.
He's so bad. Where was Stinny? Where was Stinny? Was he just hanging out? Like, what's going on?
Stinny's more of a swing. He's a guard. He plays better at guard, or like, so that's their other option. Yeah,
they knew Wells. Wells was not ready.
That's why, like, you know, to be a tackle, I wish Stinny was in there, but I'd rather have just thrown Stinny try out playing tackle.
I think we should have tried it. Yeah.
You said Josh Wells wasn't your boy. He's on the bachelor party list. I don't know what you're talking about. So, like, yeah, just throwing that out there.
Well,
come on, man.
Every Buck gets an invite to my bachelor.
Yeah.
And then so just unbelievable. Literally our two most important offensive linemen, arguably outside of Marpet. I mean, the whole O-line as a unit is so fantastic, which I've just been raving about all season.
Incredibly healthy all year too.
So healthy.
Kept on saying
Brady loves them, eh?
Oh, and
Brady loves them.
As he should, and it's true, right? Yeah. Like, it's not just hyperbole, like when he says that, or when Aikman, you know, rephrases whatever Brady said about the O-line, or Bruce Arians saying, as long as we got Tom Brady and a healthy O-line, our offense is going to put up points. It's true. Like, everything's been so ironclad, like no issues there. And you just feel, at least for me, we've had so many of these injuries at so many important positions. I'm like, okay, well, we're not getting hurt anywhere else. Certainly not the O-line.
Yeah.
Literally every other group.
Oh my God. Unbelievable. Like, that's the one, what felt like an impenetrable force of ours that isn't going to be damaged or nicked or whatever. But anyway, Ryan Jensen, our center, all pro caliber center, absolutely all pro caliber, who's had a bit of a bad back this season, but he's a warrior. He got banged up in the middle of a pile. He got twisted or turned up, and he was in a significant amount of pain. Looking at him, like, he is a tough SOB, and you could just see on his face, man, almost looked like he had tears coming down his face. I did not think we would see him return, but we did. So that one, you know, with Jensen, I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter what it is. Let him keep playing. Bring him back. It's
yeah,
right.
I thought I saw the same thing with the tears. I'm like, is he just so jacked up that he's just pissed off and like completely overwhelmed, or did he know that it was bad? And obviously, it was the former and not the latter, right? Like, thank God. What a break that was. Obviously, so good for the Bucs.
Jim Melvin on Facebook asks, is it official that Jensen injury is not as severe as Wirfs? I would not say it's official. We haven't received official word. Bruce Arians just described all three of those offensive linemen we've discussed, Jensen, Wirfs, and Bo's favorite swing tackle in the league, Josh Wells, as questionable for next week. So they're going to keep it vague for now until they figure it out. I mean, so we don't want to sit and speculate. I mean, I think Jensen's going to be out there, though. We're not going to speculate. Here's some speculation. Jensen will be back. Jensen will be okay.
I just saw on Sports Center that Wirfs is in a walking boot, and he said, like, as of right now, it's going to be right up until game time if he plays. So, like, that's something. That's what Arians said. So
yeah, no.
If I was a betting man, I'd lean that they're both going to play, and that Wells is not going to be playing for personal reasons.
Well, Bowden, you are a betting man, and let me look up that for you. I'm sure we can get some money down on that in like the Cayman Islands or something.
Yeah, let's call it in.
Yeah.
Fabian Espinoza on Facebook said, "What is good, gentlemen?" He goes on to say, "When Jensen punched the ground, I thought it was a season-ending injury." I shared that frustration or that fear as a fan that you did, Fabian. When I saw the same thing. I was like, "Oh shit, Jensen is pissed. Like, something's bad. He's in a lot of pain." But sure enough, you know, there he goes coming back. He didn't even miss a snap, to be exact. So,
but also, yeah, and these diehard Bucs fans that are watching every game are probably having like nightmares when they see anybody on the ground, knowing that the precedent for this whole season is like, oh, okay, then that's another season ender, right? So, you know, to see them both get up and get back into the game must have been just like, holy shit, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Now, also, while we're talking about these like injuries, there were some dirty plays in this game from the Eagles. I'm not like whatever, just so happened. Like, first of all, Aikman was complaining about that late hit by Derek Barnett that got flagged, which is whatever as a call. I'm not even like have an issue with his critique of the whistle, but the way that it jarred Brady's leg while it was straight, he hit him in the hip. It looked ugly to me. I was like, oh shit, and he looked a little sore after that for a sec.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, sorry, I forgot about that play because that was like a drive extender on the first drive, right?
Yeah,
I thought that was based on what the rule and what's been called all year. I thought that was 100% a penalty, and maybe it looked worse because you don't usually see someone's thigh move that way in slow motion when 280-pound guy's helmet hits it. But yeah, I was like, holy shit! I thought something really bad could have happened to Brady's leg there. That did not look good.
You saw the exact same thing as me then, Cap, because that's exactly what I saw. I wasn't going to speak on the penalty, but I was kind of surprised like Aikman was acting like it was like we've seen way less where they're like, oh yeah, that's a penalty. That's a roughing the passer. That's the new rules. That's the new rules. They know.
Aikman was like, no, like, I don't know. What are we even doing here? And maybe that was closer to 50-50, but he was making it like it wasn't a late hit at all. I thought, okay, maybe there was an argument, but he was describing it like, what are these refs looking at? Which that's just not what I saw at all.
Yeah, totally.
It definitely feels like there's a little bit of like a bounty on Buccaneers' knees because I think the next play you're going to get to is that Gronk one, right? I forget who it was, but they just like literally just like looked at his chest, looked at his waist, and said, "Okay, I'm going for his knees."
While he was wrapped up.
What else is new?
Yeah.
So with Gronk, as is often the case, when he gets back into that second level, so it's a safety or a cornerback who's got to hold him up. It takes a couple of them, right, just to slow him down. Yeah. Like it's usually three guys. So one guy holds him up, and Gronk will just happily stand there, like trot a couple steps and wait for the whistle because he knows no one's bringing him down half the time. I don't know who it was either. It was like their version of Ross Cockrell for all I know. I mean, he doesn't look like much of a player, but Sure enough, yeah, because the problem was Gronk was already being held up by the guy's teammate. So that one was despicable. Jenna Lane, ESPN Bucks reporter, she tweeted it out today or commented on it and shared it on her Twitter timeline. And I was just like, yeah, that's dirt, man. Like,
yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to sit here and hum and haw about all that, but like couple plays where I was like, Barnett was acting like chippy and trying to piss people off. He's lucky Jensen was in a lot of pain, because if I feel like normally Jensen would have headbutted him, would have taken his helmet off to headbutt him. Richard Rayburn asking who we prefer in tonight's game, who we think we play. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there soon. I want to cover a bit of the other side of the ball for the Bucs in this game as well.
Yeah,
these guys saw that they want to talk about.
No, just one last thing. Like, they look great and just in a flow immediately. And the fact that, they were getting off the field, which we'll cover when we talk about the defense, but then just giving Brady so many chances to add to the lead is just so not the recipe to win or for Philly, like, to pull an upset, right? And as that first half went on, they just looked more and more comfortable. They kicked a couple field goals, I believe. It happens. Brady took a sack, but it was when, the 3 points were already guaranteed. So it wasn't like he just wasn't going to force a ball into the end zone. Right. So that's fine. But they looked crisp. Mike Evans looked so good. I was glad he got into the end zone, because he was tackled just on the 2 or 3, I want to say twice before actually getting in after that quick exchange after the Hurts pick in the third quarter there. So, they look great. I think you tweeted this call that they kind of took the foot off the gas a little bit. It looked like they had kind of, all right, we reached our limit for points, but right, I don't know. Like, maybe that's nitpicking, because they had just sliced and diced the Eagles so surgically earlier. So
it is definitely nitpicking, and Bo's been nitpicking at that all year, more or less. And that's kind of revisits what I mentioned off the top for anyone who's been tuned in from the beginning, about speaking too early to Bo, because I was like, is this the statement game you've been waiting for? And I don't think it would end up classified as that, because they really did. They were just content running the ball up the middle. It seemed that second half, predictably over and over. Part of the reason as well, like, let's be real here with myself. If this is a mirror I'm looking into, not a camera, I would say, Colin, be real. It's because you desperately needed Tyler Johnson to have 2 catches that half and to pass the 34-yard receiving mark.
Oh, the truth comes out.
So it's a bit half and half. It's a half and half.
Yeah,
hey, you know what? I'd give the Bucs a lot of credit for that game. That is actually what I want to see from them, is coming out early and actually punching the other team first, and not playing this like draw or what you hope is going to be a draw at the end of the first half, and then turning it on in the second. Turn it on in the first, and if you can coast in the second, I don't hold that against you, because you did the work at the start. But
yeah.
I agree. It was a good game. They played well.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, NFL team, they don't play 4 quarters if they don't have to, because coaches just want to end games as quickly as possible, right? Exactly. So, like, it'd be nice to see that. Like, now, I guess the Bills took a different tack than that the night previous, as they were very much looking to score on every drive. But that's not the typical mindset of NFL coaches. Like, Arians knew the game was over. Let's get out of here. Let's not get hurt. And never in doubt. Obviously, the Eagles put a couple drives together, but man, they looked just absolutely inept on offense. So,
and the Bills were playing the Patriots, so their step on the throat mentality. Like, let's say this game was just versus the Saints, I feel like maybe the offense would have kept the pedal to the metal a little bit more, but who knows?
That's probably fair. That is probably fair.
On the defensive side of the ball, we got to talk about the D. I was so happy to see our defense flying around, to see
flying.
First quarter back, flying. Yeah.
Like, I know the Eagles aren't an offensive juggernaut, and I talked about it off the top about, many people, myself included, thinking that they could give the Bucs some issues with their rushing attack, especially if the weather was going to be an issue leading up to the game. But I thought the defense stepped up in a huge way. So great to see Shaq, Levante, and JPP all back out there on the field. Shaq, of course, went on to secure a one-handed interception, a little tip drill. That was cool late in the game.
That was such an athletic play, and then a great run back too. Like, that was awesome.
I'm really happy because I was pessimistic on the status, particularly in regards to Shaq Barrett and Levante David, because the Bucs were so quiet about their injuries. We weren't seeing much. And I'm like, are we being overly optimistic here saying we're going to hoping to have them back by the playoffs? Because that's all that Bruce would say. But they were both out there. They didn't play a full snap count as they normally would, but that's totally fine. Seems like a perfect tune-up. They came away unscathed. That's the most important aspect of that. So that's fantastic. And the secondary impressed the hell out of me this game. Our corners and safeties, I thought, played incredibly well, not just in coverage, but because again, Hurts isn't a huge threat to throw the ball, and I swear to God, he wasn't comfortable looking anywhere outside of Dallas Goedert. I think, Bo, you talked about it last week, Goddard having a big day potentially. He did end up having a big day, so that would have been money in your pocket.
He's good, man.
He is
Goddard's
really
good. Goddard's a great player. Yeah.
Huge catch radius. He's really good.
Yeah. He's
really
solid
good.
For sure.
Can I jump in really quickly? Because even though we showered a lot of love onto this Bucs defense when we can, I think you guys got the best safeties in the league. And I don't want to take anything away from the Bills because we're going to get to that Bills game, and they balled out. They were unbelievable. Micah Hyde and what's the other guy's name? Jordan Poyer. Yeah. I was going to say Poirier, but that's a fighter in the UFC. The Bucs safeties. Okay, maybe they're not the top two corner safeties in the league, but that's the deepest safety room in the league by far. And with Mike Edwards coming in, getting that huge pick, and just the love for Jordan Whitehead and Antoine Winfield. They're so incredibly good, and they're all over the field. And it's just the way that the safety position is supposed to be played at this level. And I just can't say enough about them. I just love watching them play.
I love that. I'm going to be replaying that when we get this podcast version up over and over. I'm gonna make it my alarm clock. Bodan saying the Bucs have the best safeties in the league. I like how you distinguish it in terms of depth. I recently just tweeted out that Poyer and Micah Hyde after that Micah Hyde interception early in that game. We'll talk about that later.
An absolute robbery. Yeah, I know.
And
that was the curtains on that game too. By the way,
it was. That's exactly what I was gonna say, Scott. That was the curtains on the game. Well said.
It was a perfect throw, by the way. That's in his. Sorry, we're talking that the throw from Mac Jones. It was in the bucket. Hyde just went over and made a better play. That was unreal.
Yeah, but back to the Bucs. What you're saying is so true, Bodan, because you're acknowledging that safety group as a unit. And if depth matters, which it obviously does in the NFL, Mike Edwards is fantastic. He's a safety.
He's so good.
He's a starting safety on so many teams, and he's also a ball hawk, man. The dude makes plays. I remember earlier in the year, I was describing. I dug into the numbers, and per his snap counter, I think John Ledyard actually had pushed me in that direction, or had even stated it himself, but of the Pewter Report. But his turnover plays per snaps played in the NFL is at some ridiculous, unsustainable rate of positive efficiency.
Keep
whatever
it up.
am I saying? And he did it again. He was awesome. Yeah. They were so good, and
they're so good
as run supporters. I would say they're the best tackling safeties
I think so too.
Between Winfield and Whitehead, because they're both more of I don't want to say they're both more naturally strong safeties. Whitehead is for sure, but Winfield's pretty damn versatile as a cover, all over the place. But the three of them were on the field a ton together, and that was so awesome to see. And I know tons of Bucs fans liked it. It looked like a different group, and a lot of play your best football players. Get Sean Murphy. No offense, Sean Murphy Bunting, but I'd rather, instead of having you, playing on the outside or in the nickel, I'd rather you out there. I'd rather those three safeties, Jamel Dean and Carlton Davis. That's the back five. Because Jamel Dean had a hell of a game too.
Jamel Dean was awesome too. Carlton Davis should have way more picks than he does have, but he just doesn't have the ball skills. But I just think when you have three really good safeties compared to two pretty really good ones in Buffalo, give me the three, because there's so much that goes into that the quarterback gets confused. And I think that's what happened to Jalen Hurts on that pick for sure with Mike Edwards, where they just not sure who's the free safety, who's the strong safety, who's the nickel. There's so many things that are going on pre-snap when you have that type of versatility in your back end, and it can't be understated.
It does make it harder for the offense to figure out what's going on too. So shout out to our guy Matt Marchese Bills Mafia, Matt Marchese of Sportsnet 5, the Fan 590. He's been on the show, big Bills guy. I'll have to clip this and send it to him about our guy Bo, who's not a Bucs fan. Hear that, folks? He loves our safeties. He loves them.
But sorry, just adding on to the secondary talk. First of all, Sean Murphy Bunting sounds like he'd be a member of British Parliament. You know what I mean? Like he kind of sounds that way. And I don't know about you guys, but it's like, you know, when the quarterback extends the play, or has enough time to throw, and it's like, all right, someone has just gotten open, right? Because you can't see down the field with the coverage. Every time it looked like that was going to be the what was going to happen for Hurts. No one was open. It wasn't like some deep crosser. It wasn't like someone broke off the route and then, you know, it was, and then they came open, like coming back to him. There was always a hand in there. It was always like the throw maybe wasn't the best because the guy was covered. Like there was just, I didn't think Hurts played well, but I also don't. But you know, I think it was as much as it was Hurts not playing well, it was, you know, the Bucs secondary and the Bucs defense in general forcing his hand. So like that was great to see.
Really well said. Couldn't agree more. And I mean, also like the reason, you know, the Eagles ended up putting up 15 points. But that's because the time of possession in the second half was ridiculous for Philly because the Bucs were just content to run it 3 times in a row, as I mentioned, and punt it up. So, you know, you're putting them in a bit of a tough spot there. Again, part of my critique of the offense just being a little too comfortable, but it worked. So who cares? We're moving on. I want to say we're healthy, but we're not. But
you know what's funny though, guys? Like, so Tampa gets the ball first and scores, right? So automatically Philly, a non-explosive offense, is really beyond the 8 ball. To at least get a couple first downs and flip the field and just have some momentum so it shows that they're going to be able to move the ball. And at the first series, it's a 3rd and 2, and they have this RPO, and Hurts keeps it, loses 3 or 4 yards, punt. Had he pitched it to Sanders, it was a dead play anyway. So it was like that just felt like a huge, like, all right, odds are you're going to be down 2 scores now when you get the ball. And like it's just very hard to win, right? Like there's only so many possessions in a game. You're going up against Brady at home. Like that's tough to do. I remember like it was, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, this 3rd and 2 in the first quarter is just an absolutely massive play to determine like what the flow of this game is going to be. And then boom, like they never had a chance. Never. Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, that's really all there is to say about it. Happy we don't have to talk about teams like the Eagles anymore. Because,
Eagles,
you know,
Steelers, see ya.
The couple teams still don't necessarily belong. The Eagles were one of them. I mean, you know, let's be real with how their season played out. You know what I'm saying? Like they got a lot of wins versus their schedule really favored them in the back half of the season. Someone today I read called them kind of the Dolphins of the NFC, and I thought that kind of made sense in a way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we're going to be playing a much better opponent next week. That's for damn sure. And thankfully, that's going to be at Raymond James. So even if they're calling for a hurricane, you know, it'll be beautiful, just like this past week. But what you don't know is who we're going to play, and that's going to be determined tonight. So that's why I want to kind of tee this up, because it's the only game yet to be played of the wild card round games. And it's happening tonight, Monday Night Football, Arizona Cardinals versus the LA Rams, SoFi Field. Rams are favored by 3. What do you boys think is going to happen here tonight? Just before I pass it off to one of you. They're not going to have DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously, his injury is pretty serious. There was talk initially when it first happened they might have him back for playoffs. Huge hit for them. They went from being an elite red zone converting team to not at all. So without him, and you see why, not just whether he's catching the ball, but just the pressure he draws or attention he draws, pardon me. But JJ Watt's back, and I don't know how much that moves the needle, but I would say his presence is going to be a factor there. And it's kind of cool to see JJ Watt back. I feel like the dude loves football and he's a good guy, so I'm happy to see him out there. And any help the Cardinals can get tonight, I am all for. I would way rather play the Cardinals, as I think most guys would. So I don't know which one of you wants to talk about this game a little bit. I'm going to go grab a beer.
Yeah. With that being said, like the Cardinals, everybody wants to play the Cardinals, and it's because they're not as good as the Rams. But if like the way I could see this game playing out is that the Rams don't roll, but they make it really tough for the Cardinals to get that one drive that would push them over the edge and like actually make it a game, like a tie it up or to take the lead. And I think the Rams will have multiple chances to score tonight. I can't see. I think Cooper Kupp's over under for yards was like 106 yards or something like that. Like he's just kind of penciled in for 100-yard games now.
That's an
and I think
unbelievable number.
it's
Like,
nuts.
I'm not. It's not like I get it. I understand.
No,
but,
it's
but
yeah.
Like, wow, that's so high. That's so high.
I know, and
I just
and
trust
you,
the
if you,
yeah.
yeah.
Go
if
ahead,
you
Bo,
think
sorry.
about it, like Stafford has like. Not that he does, like Robert Woods is obviously out, but Stafford loves Tyler Higbee. He loves OBJ, but still they're saying Cooper Kupp's going to be over 100 yards at average. So,
yeah, I mean, yeah, that makes it. I mean, hey, that makes it. I just trust the Rams more right now.
yeah.
I've really enjoyed watching the Cardinals all year. How can you not enjoy watching Kyler play?
Especially
But
early.
they're just not playing very well right now at all, and they haven't for about a month. And it's obviously part of it. Like Hopkins on the offensive side of the ball and Watt on the defensive side, that hurts. Like those are big names, those are big contributors. Obviously, the Hopkins one especially. I don't know. Like I have like this weird thing in the back of my mind that's just like Arizona's just going to come in here and sneak this game out. I don't know why. I have that feeling. I'm not touching the game. Like I prefer the Rams. I think the Rams are going to win, but I can't get fully on board with it because
let me ask you this.
I respect Kyler so much. I don't know.
Let me ask you this, Scotty, because I was about to ask you this anyway. What is it going to take for the Cardinals to win tonight? What's got to happen in the game?
I think a couple short fields.
Stafford.
Yeah, so maybe a defensive score or at least a killer pick on their own half of the field from the Rams. Maybe like I don't know, like a fake punt or something for Arizona to keep the ball, because I think they're going to be thinking they have to outscore the Rams here, right? Like they're going to have to put up points, and I don't know. Kingsbury's been obviously, weirdly conservative in general during his tenure as a coach, so we'll see if that changes at all. I don't it's not a miracle. The Rams are a 3.5-point favorite. You know what I mean? We don't need whatever the Steelers would have needed to beat the Chiefs last night. It's nothing like that. And these two teams split this in the regular season. Arizona won at the Rams. So this isn't some, David and Goliath matchup or anything like that. I just think the Rams are playing significantly better and have better weapons offensively. So I'll take the Rams in what would be a less than ideal result for the Bucs, but that's just how I'm thinking. I think Arizona's been struggling for too long now, and I think it's hard to just flip the switch and play really well all of a sudden.
It's so funny you referenced that Steelers Chiefs game, because I was literally, when you were mentioning turnovers being the key, and Bo said, maybe the defense scores or something, because then I immediately pictured that TJ Watt scoop and score last night to put the Steelers up 7-0, but you're still doesn't matter, right? You're not even for, you're just at least you're just, all you're thinking then is, oh, well, at least I can pretend to be interested in this game a little longer than I would have been. But if that happens tonight, that's a huge swing. That could change the result of the game, something like that, because the teams are a lot closer.
And another two things. When Pittsburgh scored that touchdown, the live line moved to Kansas City -3.5, and I was like, I don't know, like whatever. I just didn't really feel like betting it. I was like, they're gonna win, and they're gonna kill them. And they were up 14-7, so covering that short 3.5 number, 5 minutes of game time later, is so ridiculous. But from a Rams perspective, Stafford still hasn't done anything. I don't mean that in a
he hasn't done anything consistently.
Yeah, and he hasn't done anything in the playoffs, and that's because he played for the Lions. I'm just saying, this is a big spot for him. I'd like to see how free or tight he looks in the first quarter here, because everything was about the Rams getting Stafford. He's going to put them over the top. Well, he better win his first home playoff game then, right? I'm not actually saying that. I'm just saying that's what the narrative will be. I'm not going to say he sucks or he's awesome as a result of one game. But, to kind of justify it all, and after all this, the Rams had a great year, they still need to beat a team that they had lost to at home already this season. Like, so there's a lot on the line.
Yeah, and Stafford has 17. He's thrown 17 interceptions this year. Like,
yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, and a lot in the second half of the season.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because he was the MVP after week 8, and I know that's ridiculous because that's less than halfway through the season, but he was like, and deservedly so, and he's completely fallen off that with all these picks. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you have a score prediction? Like, how do you think this plays out?
Well, before we get to the score prediction, just looking at both teams as potential Bucs opponents, it'd be kind of tough if something was actually wrong with Tristan Wirfs, and I don't think there is, to face either Von Miller or Chandler Jones or J.J. Watt on the right side of that line.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'd be more worried of the Rams line in general.
Those are two really good pass rushes.
Yeah, man, that's tough. Those are athletic teams, athletic defenses either way. But I gotta think if you're Tampa, you'd much rather avoid that Rams defensive front.
100%, especially if our O-line's banged up, for sure. I'd rather take our chances. I mean, we still got, I would much rather that. Absolutely. And with Jensen banged up, man, trying to like match Aaron Donald with if he was
it doesn't matter who's in front of Aaron Donald though, at least.
That's true.
But you just have to deal with that part.
But
that's kind of like, also, we didn't get to Vita Vea. Vita Vea like actually like manhandled Jason Kelsey for most of that game, like ragdolled him.
Yeah, you know what? I was listening to Ben Solak of The Ringer. He's an Eagles fan, I guess. He's a young guy, bright football guy.
I know, surprising when you see him the first time you see him, eh?
Yeah, I was like, did I used to babysit this kid? Like,
I was like, what did I do with my life? Like, I missed like all of my 20s, I think.
Yeah, but he knows a lot more about football than I do. But anyway, he was very diplomatic in stating that as good as Kelsey is, and he wouldn't trade him for any center in the league, because they were talking about the centers such as like Ryan Jensen and how Kelsey stacks up. He's such a Philly guy. He loves Kelsey. He's synonymous with that team and that franchise and that city. He was just saying, though, matching up against Vita Vea is an awful matchup for him. Like, he struggles with bull rushers, and there's no more fierce bull rusher at that spot in the league than Vita Vea. So good call, Bo. You're right. And shout out to Ben Solak of The Ringer, because he did predict that exact outcome on that in that specific matchup. Let's quickly, because we don't have a ton of time, boys. So let's try and be relatively concise, but still offer our analysis, our thoughts, and then move on in terms of the games that just happened. And then I want to see, if we have time, we'll take a little look ahead to the divisional round. Are you guys good with that?
Yeah,
sure. Let's do it.
I'm gonna go in terms of how the games were played. So outside of the Bucs, obviously. So Raiders 19, Bengals 26. I feel like that game kind of just like went how you thought it would, at least like from my vantage point. Like, there was no real surprises there. That it kind of ended up playing out how you thought it might.
Well, 7-point game, and there was a 7-point play where it probably should have been called dead. that was like a really weird. I think the right thing happened because it would have been an error whistle. And I don't think it made guys let up that much, but I'm talking about I think it was in the second quarter, just before half. Burrow rolling right, gets close to the sideline, and the ref, I think he actually let go of the ball first. And while the ball was in the air, the ref blows a whistle. Tyler Boyd comes down with it in the end zone, celebrates for a second, then looks around, and everybody's looking around like, wait, what's going on? And like minutes later, they give the touchdown signal. And it comes down to a 7-point game after that. Really weird play,
dude. So weird. I was watching that game with the sound off because I had the sound on a basketball game. Anyway, I was trying to figure out what the hell happened and then it's like, okay, so they did score, and even Boyd didn't celebrate. Like, that was just a bizarre play, and that put them up 20-6, I think.
And it was pretty clear on the replay, like very clear on the replay that like he wasn't, he let it go well before him.
Yeah, so like New York or whoever, the eye in the sky, which we've now learned can literally tell the refs before, so a coach doesn't have to challenge it. They could be like, no, you got that wrong. Quickly change it, deliberate, make the change. As Tarico told us this weekend, and I feel like no one actually knew that. But in terms of that play, so yeah, they did that in terms of Burrow being inbound still, right? Which was true.
Yeah.
But what I didn't know, but the rule is if a whistle is blown, whether inadvertent or otherwise, while the play is going on, the play is dead, no matter what.
It should have been off, yeah.
If that's the rule, it is you can't even dispute the fact that it happened before the player caught the ball. Before Burrow caught the ball. It's literally in the air. It's so obvious. Everyone knows it. And then after, I guess the refs, they justified it by saying that when they were addressed or questioned about it point blank, the head of officials or something, or that crew said they felt the player had secured the ball before the whistle blew inadvertently, and that's why they let it go. And I'm like, okay, that's absolute bullshit. Like, no one in any way.
No, it's not right.
This is black and white here. This is black and white.
If I was a Raiders fan, and I know a few Raiders fans in my family, they were not happy with the way that ended. And I think it kind of everybody breezed over it because the Raiders actually got the ball back and like put a 2-minute drill together and scored right after that. And it went into the game, went into half a lot closer to what it would have been. But it was I would replay that a lot if I was a tortured Raiders fan.
That was tough.
And speaking of the Raiders, Mike Mayock is gone. Scott, you shared that shortly before we went on. Was it Scott or Bo did? Bo shared that. So Bo broke the news. That means he gets cool points. Capron cool points.
Bo bomb.
Yeah,
Bo bomb
via Ian Rappaport.
So I mean, that strikes me especially. Like, I'm a sucker for Mayock, but maybe this means he'll be back with NFL Network. That'd be pretty cool.
That's one less job for us, though. We had our eyes on that.
That's true. But when Mayock's back with NFL Network, I feel like that's when the COVID-19 pandemic is going to end. Like, things just are coming back to normal, like the way they should be. Life is pure again.
But
I hope he takes some time.
Why do you think they fired him? Because he just drafted like some bad dudes, and they were all right. Like, let's go. Gruden's gone. We may as well just restart. Like, I don't. It seems,
I think it was a regime thing for sure. Yeah, I think it was a regime thing.
It was probably ownership. Weird, right? Like with the Davis too. Like, you'd think they'd give Mayock a go here. Like, Mayock's a super good guy. Like, Scott hates when I do that. I think when I talk like I know the guy, he's a good guy.
Oh yeah, we call him Maisie over at the Hallboom House. Yeah, for sure. Oh, Mikey May.
But what I mean is he's not getting caught up in any of the shit. At least I don't think that Gruden did. Like they're just not the same people. They just work together as football minds and collaborate that way.
But how do you move past that? How do you move past that? If he was brought in as the Gruden era, the brains behind the desk, like every time you look at Mike Mayock, you kind of are reminded of John Gruden.
But then shouldn't they have just done it then and just like thrown Mayock?
Let him get a few checks. He didn't do anything wrong.
No, but all his team did, like his draft picks, like Max Crosby, become a national, like,
I know,
darling, like a workhorse, nonstop motor, surpassing his own physical limitations with sheer desire and will to be successful. The next JJ Watt, type thing.
No, he's I think like some Raiders fans could be upset about what Mayock did in the first round, but his second, third round, like late in the draft, he more than made up for his value.
It's weird though, right? Because he's had a lot of first round picks, and to whiff on that many's bad. Like
a lot of them, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like even Leatherwood this past year.
Leatherwood's bad. Leatherwood kind of cost them that game, honestly.
Oh God, poor Leatherwood, the leader of a group of 12-year-old spies. As Scott
he can't solve crimes either. He's terrible.
That's why he settled in playing football.
Yeah, well, he might have to go back to his old job then. Jesus, he's no good. But it's like, is Mayock being blamed? I don't, this is just speculation. I'd like to read up a little bit about actually why he got fired, but it's just like, is this because of Ruggs? Like,
yeah,
or David Arnett,
too.
It's gonna be tough to there's a lot of like little black marks on like the Mayock, and like as much as there's the Max Crosby's, there are the Damon Arnett's, the Henry Ruggs,
even Keelan Farrell,
John
man.
Gruden.
Keelan Farrell, he took top like 4th overall, I think, ahead of Devin White. But that's something a word I'm trying to avoid tonight. Devin and White. We're not going to talk Devin tonight.
Yeah.
In terms of that game, though, I mean, Jamar Chase, like, they're going for him. It seemed like Burrow was like, okay, I guess I don't even need to involve T. Higgins, or I guess Boyd got involved a little bit. Uzama caught a tutty, but when Jamar Chase, the way that guy, his footwork, and he's just so dynamic right now. Like, he's just an elite wide receiver 1. So it doesn't even matter if that's the whole objective of Burrow. You still can't stop it, is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, and, he's better than
he put them on notice.
Him.
Yeah, put them on notice on the first drive. I think he had like 3 or 4 catches immediately.
Yeah, didn't matter.
He is unreal. He is so effing good, man. He's so fun to watch. He does it all. He's strong. He's physical. Great hands. He's fat. Like you couldn't ask for more. He's awesome. They're gonna beat the Titans. They're gonna beat Tennessee this week.
Well, we got that in our predictions, both of us, Scott. So Bo will be down 2 if that happens.
Yeah, it's fine. Give me the tits.
So let's talk that Pats-Bills game a little bit. Not too far from where we're located, over in Western New York, Orchard Park. Shout out CM Walter 10 checking us out on YouTube.
Oh, what up, Wally?
Wally says, "Go Bucs." Respect, Wally. Heard we might see you up north this summer for the aforementioned Booze Island trip. Sorry, folks. We're just talking our social lives here. But yeah,
golf clothes optional, man.
Pat's Bills. Bodan, you got to stand in the rain on this one, buddy. You've been.
I'm fine.
We talked a lot about before these teams played 3 times in the last couple months. You were all Pat's train, and
how disingenuous would it be for me to have picked the Bills after all of that?
Oh, fair enough. You felt obligated.
Fair. Right? That's fair.
I was backed into a corner. I was hoping for a 1-possession game. Turned out that was only for the 1 possession of the game that it was a 1-possession game.
Fair enough.
So,
I mean, really well said.
Yeah. Pat's got a long way to go. Josh Allen looked like the greatest football specimen in the history of football creations. Like, that game, that was incredible.
Hey, if he plays like that, I mean, and they're running him, and he's making throws, he's making reads. They're exceptional. I've always just been worried about their floor in a given game is low. That's been my thing. And like, even though they were only 11-6, they had a ton of close losses, obviously, right? That's my thing with them. I've never been like, their good is excellent. That hasn't been the issue. It's just worried about the volatility of them. But we saw that's as good a game as an NFL team can play. They were exceptional. Allen was unbelievable, and they just beat the absolute shit out of the Pats. Like, it was never a game, and good for them. And like, how fun did that look on Saturday night?
Yeah, that was crazy. Our boy Vic Razzo, who was in the comments last week, he was at the game. He said he'd go topless if the Bills went up 18, and that happened felt like 6 minutes into the game. So
yeah,
he sent me a video to prove it. It was pretty funny. Shout out to Victor Razzo for that, and congrats to you.
Great win.
Great win. And utter domination. When we have a little bit of time, we'll talk about who the Bills are playing next week, because that'll be quite the matchup. I want to just zip through the games that happened, though. Niners Cowboys. Wow, what a game that was. Came right down to it.
Yeah. What on earth? What the hell? Like where to even start with that one? So sorry. I guess this is a trend of the podcast, but I also didn't have the sound on watching this game because I had a basketball game on. After the fake punt, and they left the punting unit on the field to potentially for San Fran to take a timeout. Like, is that valuable?
I also was mind-boggled.
It was like watching a foreign language film, but in silence. Like, I couldn't understand. Like, I had no idea what the hell was going on. And then I finally changed. Like, I muted the other TV and put this one on. I was like, Romo's trying to figure it out. I was like, yeah, I've seen people do that. I've seen teams do this to try to, make the other team take a timeout. Who gives a shit? Who cares? Like, you got the first down and you're down by whatever. I think you're down by 2 scores, like 16 at that point. go put Dak on the field. I mean, sorry,
seems a little gimmicky though, right? It's like, let's go. Is this the time to be experimenting with these outside of the box little?
And what's the real? Like, the timeouts are more valuable for the team that's coming back. So, if San Fran does have to use a timeout with a 16-point or a 15-point lead or 16-point lead, who cares? Like, I don't know. So bizarre. That coupled with everything that San Fran did at the end of the game, Debo being just short, then they get, as opposed to just sneaking the ball, they got Trent Williams in motion. Of course, the punter kicks it into the fucking end zone, right? So then Dallas has a chance. And then maybe a worse quarterback's run call than the Giants quarterback sneak from their on 3rd and 4 in week 18 against the Skins there. Like, there wasn't enough time to do that. You just can't do that. No. I'm sorry. And then I don't know. Like, there was no way. Like, to get everyone lined up, it's not worth the risk. Like, it's just not worth the risk. It's I don't know.
It's not like they were too far to take a shot anyway. So I understand what you're saying in terms of not liking that play call. I think if you're going to do that with your quarterback, he's got to be aware of when to slide. And obviously he needed to slide a little bit earlier. Dak did a good job post-game addressing that. But a lot of people think that makes a lot of sense to still run that play to get that yardage as long as your quarterback is aware of it's a lot to ask your quarterback, obviously. That's why I say, like, maybe someone who really is experienced, but to take a knee to slide early enough to get it back and then handing it to the center as opposed to giving it right to the linesman.
But
the ref.
Just that right there is too much can happen.
Yeah.
As opposed to throwing a 9-yard out in that spot. Like,
and
the risk is not worth the reward.
All that on Dak is too much. It's too much on Dak. Like, he's got trying to think of where every player on the field is going to be, who's coming in motion. Like, there's enough. And
what if the ref's out of position? So then it's done because the ref doesn't spot the ball. There's no way that can't be what you do. And I think it was Jeff Schwartz made the comments about, you can't praise Kellen Moore for everything good offensively and then kill Mike McCarthy for that at the end of the game, which I totally agree with.
Yeah.
It's one or the other, which we've discussed this on the pod. The dichotomy of how teams work and who does what is fascinating to me because it feels like you just like the narrative is to just kill whoever has frequently been the scapegoat. And then you just do that. Well, listen, McCarthy isn't a good coach and he might've cost them the game anyway, but like, was it him or was it Kellen Moore? Cause you can't have that both ways.
That is a Capron classic right there, that critique. And you're right. That's a perfect example, right? Who are we supposed to blame? Well, damn right. If you're not going to tell us who's making these decisions, we'll blame the one we don't like and we'll praise the one we do.
Or like, listen, fucking send out an email blast at the start of the season. This is what this person actually does. Right? Like, they used to say that about Gruden and the Raiders all the time. Oh, Gruden's making the picks. So why is Mike Mayock there? And if he's like, but people just say it flippantly, like as if it doesn't matter. No, it matters who is actually doing the thing that is being discussed. I'd like the role allocation part of it with the NFL is wild to me. I'll never understand it. But anyways, this was just another example. And back to the actual game. Dallas was unprepared, didn't deserve to win. It was a miracle that they had a chance to win at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And like, what's going on with the stadium?
Yeah. Well, you mean people crying when they're making a push to come back and they have a legit chance to win the game? Like that kind of thing?
I'm talking about the sun coming in and affecting the game because Jerry Jones wanted a window. Like, you're in Texas.
Hitting the scoreboard on the punt.
Oh, it's so ridiculous. They are a ridiculous franchise, man. Like, I heard something today, talking about who's going to be the next coach. And apparently, like, the biggest skill that Jason Garrett had was he knew how to talk to and like massage his relationship with Jerry Jones. Yeah. How can you ever be a functional franchise if that's what you need to do in order to be the coach? Like, the owner who is making personnel decisions, it just doesn't make any sense. It's so wild. They're a disaster, honestly.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to worry about that. I mean,
yeah.
I know, but that's just bad ownership, right? I
Yeah.
guess it's bad
Yeah.
ownership, but I don't know.
I
If I had $1 billion in a team, like I don't know, I kind of want it. I'd be like, yo, are you guys listening to our podcast? Because we've got some really good suggestions on what you guys should be doing.
I mean, obviously, I'm with that.
That's a good realistic take, though, Bo. You're like, because if we were on a team, we'd probably want to say.
Yeah.
But I guess you
And
hired
like if you love football, like Jerry Jones loves football, right?
Yeah.
On all accounts, like he's the most player owner that there is. Like Deion Sanders just calls him in the middle of an interview and he picks up. It's insane.
Yeah, but he's also like a self-proclaimed GM. Like he just hires his kid and makes the draft picks, right? Like that's the difference.
But isn't there also another legend that we know in New England who hires his kid to run his defense?
Oh my God, how funny is that? Speaking of piling on, the Belichick rat tail or mullet or whoever he is, like that defense got absolutely stomped, and it was hilarious to see his name come up.
Yeah.
Talking about Bill Belichick's son. I don't know his first name.
Steve, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Russ Weeks watching on YouTube. Do you think John Brown will make it into the lineup, maybe as a better slot option? In terms of John Brown, I don't expect to necessarily see him. Like they're not going to move on from Tyler Johnson, who's often occupying that slot position right now. I don't think they just picked John Brown up. I think it's more of an emergency thing if they're absolutely screwed. Someone Bruce Arians has familiarity with from their days in Arizona. That's my opinion on that. Russ Weeks goes on to say about Dallas has coaching problems and they'll keep McCarthy for another 10 years. Yeah, exactly. Like that's a thing. Scott, when we were talking about this, Scott was like, McCarthy could get fired. Like we all think he sucks. And I was like, but the problem is Jerry, once he picks, like Jason Garrett lasted how long?
So
like,
way too long. So I'm pretty sure they came out and said McCarthy's safe for next season.
Probably. Because again, Jerry probably hired a guy who like agreed and that he would let him have a certain amount of control behind the scenes. Who knows? I had initially thought we could tee up these games for next weekend, but I'm thinking we might have to just do a podcast before next weekend where we can focus strictly on previewing those games, because I don't want to rush through it, and we're just over an hour already, which is normally when we kick ourselves out of the bar, and we're gonna do that now. Not sure why I just used a Boston accent. Anyway, thanks for joining us, everyone, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, we're even on Twitch. I saw we had a couple viewers in there, so we really appreciate it. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Bucs Banter, and keep listening to the show, because we love to involve our listeners and talk Buccaneers and NFL football. It's the best time of the year. We're going to go watch some playoff football right now. Go Cardinals. Go Cardinals. See you, boys.